Maybe he may have come at one time and talked to y'all and showed you some things, but you got to know that everything I'm telling you, it's just hearsay. I learned from him, and we got, you know, he was a collector and had a lot of things in the basement, and so I just gathered up some things. But I will tell you, I kind of start here. This was just a little kind of a little collage that you can't see. This was the theater, as I understand it, was in 4 different places on the town square. The first one was over at where John and Melvine's store is, and it was one of those you paid a nickel, maybe go in and sit down, and they cranked it and showed it on the wall. You know, that was his first beginning, and then it got a little bit bigger and a little bit bigger. But you can see from some of these, this was in 1925, the formal opening of Ingram's new theater, and of course all of these were silent movies, you know, that he. And then here was December the 23rd, 1926, was when holiday attractions, you know, and these it started there, and then there was a building right next door over here, and it burned, and then there was a theater over there where the Mexican restaurant is. It wasn't that big, and it burned. And the seats that Kim is sitting in were actually, it burned in 1935, I believe, in that vicinity, 34, 35. And George's daddy, Justin Ford, I don't know if you know who Justin Ford was, but he worked for Mr. Ingram for years and years. And they took all the metal parts of that right there, the seats, and salvaged them out of the burned theater, brought them, stored them in another building, and then they, you know, refinished them. And my 2 sons and myself and 2 of my grandsons refinished these. I was telling Melvine him that it took us 2 days. And we refinished 5 chairs. We had to sand down all the backs and the seats, and the sides are called standards. And all the arms come off, so you can refinish the arms. And my son built the little feet because they were made, you know, for the floor that slants. So you couldn't sit in them without some sort of stabilization on the bottom. But at the time, I mean, they could have been green, who knows, but anyway, that gives you a little history of how old they are. And this was in 1929, called The Carnation Kid. Mr. Ingram was quite a showman. He enjoyed the theater, and he loved it. He loved it from the time he was young. He did lots of other things. He worked in the bank, and he had an appliance business. He did lots of other things along with the theater business because it wouldn't completely, you know, support his family. But I know you all know that back in those days, the theater was just sort of the center of attraction. People loved to come. And even me as a child in the 50s, before I even knew George, we would put on our skates, and we would skate to town and to the show, and we'd leave all our skates out by the weight machine we had out in front of it. I still have that. And we'd pile them all out there with our ribbon around our neck with our skate key, and we'd see the theater, see the movie, whatever was playing, and then, you know, skate home. And you could come at that time. I had 2 different little things that hung in the window up there, where adults was, I think, 40 cents, and children were 15 at one time, 15 cents. And you know, my dad would give me a quarter, and I was good for the day, you know, for the afternoon. I could buy popcorn and a Coke and a piece of candy, you know. But Mr. Ingram, like I said, loved all the stuff that goes on with the theater. This was some early pictures that he had. and I'll pass these around and you can look at them. They're kind of flimsy in here. It's not a good, but this one was when Mickey Rooney and Judy Garland came to the theater. And he would do these big signs and show them out in front of the theater. And his was when Ray Whitley and George O'Brien was in a movie that came. And this was when a movie called Dodge City, which was a pretty big movie back in the 20s. And this was Shirley Temple and Heidi when they showed that. And then this one was a movie called Covered Wagon. And y'all can look at and see how the streets were not paved, but they would build up the front of the theater to look like a fort, you know, like for this Dodge City, and had a covered wagon out in front, you know, when they did that.